The afternoon sun cuts through the smoke-stained windows of Roosevelt Elementary School like golden knives, casting long shadows across the empty hallway. Clint Eastwood stands motionless before the metal door of classroom 3B, his weathered hands gripping the handle with the deliberate care of a man who has learned that hasty actions often lead to irreversible consequences. Behind him, the controlled chaos of evacuation continues. Parents clutch their children against their chests, relief washing over their faces in waves of gratitude and tears. Emergency vehicles flash their red and blue lights in rhythmic patterns, creating a kaleidoscope of color against the brick facade of the 40-year-old school building. But Clint's steel-gray eyes remain fixed on that door, locked from the inside, overlooked in the systematic chaos of evacuation procedures. The acrid smell of smoke still lingers in the air, 3 hours after Fire Chief Davidson declared the building safe and cleared for re-entry. "There's still someone in there," he had told the fire chief an hour ago, his voice carrying the quiet authority of a man who has seen enough of life to trust his instincts over official protocols. The response was dismissive, automatic, delivered with the practiced efficiency of someone who had dealt with worried parents and concerned citizens countless times before. "Sir, we've cleared every room twice. The building is empty." Now, as Clint finally turns the handle and steps inside, the afternoon light reveals rows of tiny desks and chairs, abandoned backpacks scattered across the linoleum floor, and the faint smell of crayons and disinfectant that defines every elementary school in America. But there, beneath the teacher's desk in the far corner, a small voice breaks the oppressive silence. "I thought everyone forgot about me." 8-year-old Maria Santos sits curled beneath the wooden desk, her dark eyes wide with fear and confusion. Her small hands clutch her inhaler tightly, the medical device that had become both her lifeline and her anchor when the fire alarm's shrieking sound had triggered her asthma attack, leaving her unable to run with the others when panic filled the hallways. Clint approaches slowly, his worn boots making soft sounds against the floor. He kneels down with the careful movements of a man whose joints protest every motion, extending his hand toward the frightened child. "Nobody forgot you, sweetheart. I'm here now." Maria's small hand finds his, and as he helps her to her feet, Clint notices the tear stains on her cheeks, the way her breathing still comes in shallow gasps, the tremor in her small frame that speaks of hours spent in terrified solitude. "I heard people calling, but I couldn't breathe good. I tried to answer, but no sound came out. It's okay now. You're safe." As they walk toward the doorway together, Maria's small voice carries a weight that no 8-year-old should have to bear. "Am I in trouble for not coming out?" Clint stops, turns to face her, and places his hands gently on her shoulders. "No, sweetheart, you're not in trouble. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is ask for help when you need it most." The confrontation. 20 minutes later, the school parking lot buzzes with activity that resembles a controlled emergency scene. News crews position their cameras with practiced efficiency, their reporters adjusting their makeup and reviewing their notes, while parents continue to reunite with their children in emotional embraces. The afternoon sun beats down mercilessly on the asphalt, creating heat waves that distort the view of the distant mountains. Fire Chief Davidson, a broad-shouldered man in his 40s with graying temples and 20 years of service etched into the lines around his eyes, stands near his red truck, removing his helmet with the methodical movements of someone who has performed this routine thousands of times. His uniform bears the stains of smoke and sweat, and his face carries the satisfied expression of a job completed successfully. Clint approaches slowly, Maria's small hand still wrapped around his weathered fingers. The crowd gradually quiets, sensing the tension building between the two men like the electrical charge that precedes a thunderstorm. Parents stop their conversations, reporters pause their interviews, and even the children seem to understand that something significant is about to unfold. "Chief Davidson." Clint's voice carries the weight of controlled anger, each word measured and deliberate. "We need to talk." The fire chief turns, his expression shifting from professional calm to defensive irritation. His posture straightens, and his hand unconsciously moves to his belt, adopting the stance of a man preparing for conflict. Mr. Eastwood, if this is about protocol or procedure, this is about a little girl who spent 3 hours thinking the world had forgotten her. Clint's words cut through the parking lot air like a blade, sharp and precise. While you were giving interviews to the press and shaking hands with the mayor, Maria was trapped in classroom 3B, too scared to call out for help. The surrounding crowd of parents and reporters falls silent, the kind of absolute quiet that only occurs when something truly significant is about to happen. Camera operators adjust their equipment, sensing a story unfolding that will lead the evening news. The afternoon breeze carries the faint sound of distant traffic, but here in this parking lot, all attention focuses on the two men facing each other. Davidson's face flushes red, the color rising from his neck to his cheeks. Now wait just a minute. My team followed standard procedure. We swept that building twice, room by room, exactly according to protocol. Your team missed a child. Clint's voice never rises, but each word carries the force of absolute certainty. She was right there under her desk, too scared to call out because of her asthma. While you were declaring victory, she was wondering if anyone would ever find her. Maria looks up at Clint, then at the fire chief, her small voice barely audible above the ambient noise. I heard you walking by my room. I tried to say something, but I couldn't breathe good. My chest felt tight, and the words wouldn't come out. The fire chief's defensive posture begins to crumble. He kneels down to Maria's level, his voice softer now, the professional facade giving way to genuine concern. Sweetheart, we thought everyone was out. The teachers did roll call, and thinking isn't enough when a child's life is at stake. Clint's words hang in the air like smoke. Your job is to know, not to assume. Your job is to make sure that every single child goes home to their family, not to take shortcuts because it's easier. Davidson stands slowly, his face now showing the weight of realization. The crowd watches as he struggles with the implications of what has just been revealed. Mr. Eastwood, I understand your concern, but we have protocols. Protocols failed today. Clint's interruption is swift and final. A little girl with asthma was left behind because your protocols don't account for children who can't run fast enough or call loud enough. What if there had been a real fire? What if she had been overcome by smoke while you were outside, celebrating a job well done? The questions hang in the air like accusations, each one finding its mark. Davidson's jaw tightens, and his hands clench into fists at his sides. Are you questioning my competence? My dedication to this job? I'm questioning a system that leaves children behind. Clint's voice carries the quiet authority of a man who has faced down much more dangerous opponents than a small-town fire chief. I'm questioning the priorities of a department that cares more about procedure than people. The confrontation draws the attention of local news crews, and within minutes, cameras are rolling and microphones are being thrust forward. The story is already taking shape. Veteran actor confronts fire chief over missed child in school evacuation. But for Clint, this isn't about publicity or drama. It's about a fundamental failure of responsibility. The deeper truth. As the immediate tension of the confrontation subsides and the crowd begins to disperse, Clint finds himself sitting on a weathered wooden bench outside the school. The bench bears the marks of decades of use, its green paint chipped and faded, carved with the initials of long graduated students. Maria's mother, Rosa Santos, approaches with tears streaming down her face, her hands shaking as she clutches her purse. Mr. Eastwood, I don't know how to thank you. When I couldn't find Maria in the crowd, when they told me everyone was accounted for, but I knew she wasn't there. Her voice breaks, and she struggles to compose herself. You don't need to thank me, Rosa. I just did what needed doing. Rosa sits beside him, her hands trembling slightly as she wipes away her tears. The other parents, they were all accounted for so quickly. Their children ran out with their classes, found their families right away. But Maria, she gets scared in crowds. Her asthma makes her panic, and when she panics, she can't breathe. and when she can't breathe, she hides. Clint nods, understanding more than she realizes. His own weathered hands rest on his knees, and he watches as Maria plays quietly on the playground equipment, her inhaler never far from reach. Sometimes the ones who need help most are the ones who can't ask for it. Why did you keep looking when everyone else stopped? The fire chief, the teachers, even the other parents. They all accepted that everyone was safe. But you kept searching. Why? The question hangs between them for a long moment. Clint's eyes focus on the school building, but his mind travels to a different time, a different place. The afternoon sun casts long shadows across the playground, and the sounds of children playing seem to fade into the background. I had a daughter once, Sarah. She was about Maria's age when I lost her. His voice carries decades of carefully contained grief, each word chosen with the precision of someone who has had to tell this story before, but never easily. Rosa's hand finds his arm, offering comfort to the man who just saved her daughter. What happened? House fire. I was away, working on a film. My wife called me, hysterical, said there had been an accident. By the time I got home, he pauses, the memory still fresh after all these years. Sarah had hidden in her closet when the smoke alarm went off. She was scared, didn't know what to do. The firefighters found her, but it was too late. The silence stretches between them, filled with the weight of shared understanding. Rosa's tears flow freely now, not just for her own near loss, but for the pain that has driven this man to ensure no other child suffers the same fate. I couldn't live with myself if I'd walked away today knowing someone might still be inside. Not again. Never again. How do you carry that? How do you live with that kind of loss? Clint's smile is sad but genuine. You don't get over it, Rosa. You learn to live with it, and you try to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. They sit in comfortable silence for several minutes, watching Maria climb on the monkey bars with the fearless determination that only children possess. Her laughter carries across the playground, a sound that speaks of resilience and recovery. She's lucky to have you watching out for her, Rosa says finally. I'm lucky to have been in the right place at the right time. Sometimes that's all it takes. Someone who refuses to walk away when everyone else has given up. The fire chief's story. Later that evening, as the sun sets behind the mountains and the school parking lot empties of all but the most essential personnel, Fire Chief Davidson finds himself standing alone beside his truck, staring at the school building. The red and blue lights have been turned off, the emergency vehicles have returned to their stations, and the reporters have gone home to file their stories. He is still there when Clint approaches, walking slowly across the empty parking lot. The two men regard each other warily, the tension from their earlier confrontation still present but tempered by the day's events. I owe you an apology, Mr. Eastwood, and I owe that little girl more than that. Clint studies the man's face, seeing genuine remorse rather than wounded pride. What matters is what you do next. Davidson removes his helmet and runs his hand through his graying hair. I've been thinking about what you said, about protocols and procedures, and I realize I've been so focused on following the rules that I forgot why those rules exist in the first place. Which is to save lives, to make sure everyone goes home safe. Davidson's voice carries the weight of 20 years of service, 20 years of emergencies and rescues and split-second decisions. I became a firefighter because I wanted to help people. Somewhere along the way, I started caring more about checking boxes than checking on people. Clint nods, recognizing the honesty in the other man's words. It's easy to lose sight of what's important when you're dealing with procedures and protocols every day. I keep thinking about what would have happened if you hadn't been there, if you hadn't insisted on looking for Maria, if there had been a real fire. Davidson's voice trails off, the implications too terrible to voice completely. But I was there, and there wasn't a real fire. What matters now is making sure this never happens again. Davidson straightens, his posture becoming more resolute. I've already started implementing changes. New protocols, mandatory thermal imaging for all sweeps, additional communication systems, and I've required all my team to meet with parents of children with special needs. We need to understand what we're looking for. That's a start. I was wrong today, Mr. Eastwood. Dead wrong. I let procedure override common sense, and I let a little girl suffer because of it. Davidson extends his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Clint shakes it. I want you to know that I became a firefighter to save lives, not to make excuses. Today reminded me of that. We all make mistakes, Chief. The measure of a man is how he handles them. As Davidson walks toward his truck, he pauses and turns back. Can I ask you something? Why didn't you just report this to the media or file a complaint with the city? Why confront me directly? Clint considers the question for a moment, his eyes focusing on the school building where Maria had spent 3 terrifying hours. Because anger without action is just noise. I wanted to make sure something would actually change. And if I hadn't listened? If I had dismissed your concerns? Then I would have found another way. A little girl's safety is worth more than anyone's pride, including my own. Davidson nods, understanding the implicit threat and respecting the man who delivered it. I'm glad you were here today, Mr. Eastwood. That little girl is lucky to have someone like you looking out for her. Every child deserves someone looking out for them. That's supposed to be your job. It is, and I won't forget that again. The community response. The next morning brings a flurry of activity that transforms the quiet school parking lot into a hub of community action. Local news crews arrive early, setting up their equipment and preparing for what has become a significant story. The headline reads, "Actor confronts fire chief over missed child in school evacuation." But as the day progresses, the story evolves beyond simple conflict into something more meaningful. Parents begin arriving with their children, not for classes. The school remains closed for safety inspections, but to participate in an impromptu town hall meeting that organizes itself around the need for better emergency procedures. Clint arrives to find Maria and Rosa among the crowd, along with dozens of other families who have come to share their concerns and suggestions. The atmosphere is serious but constructive, focused on preventing future incidents rather than assigning blame. Fire Chief Davidson stands before the assembled crowd, his uniform crisp and his bearing humble. I want to start by apologizing to the Santos family and to all of you. Yesterday, our department failed in its most basic responsibility, ensuring the safety of every child in this school. The crowd listens intently as Davidson outlines the specific changes being implemented. Mandatory secondary sweeps with thermal imaging, improved communication systems, specialized training for dealing with children with medical conditions, and a new protocol requiring personal verification that every child has been accounted for before declaring an evacuation complete. These changes are effective immediately, Davidson continues. But more importantly, I want every parent here to know that we're committed to earning back your trust through our actions, not just our words. A parent in the crowd raises her hand. What about other schools in the district? Are these changes being implemented everywhere? Davidson nods. The superintendent has mandated that all schools in the district adopt these new protocols. What happened yesterday will not happen again, anywhere. Maria's teacher, Mrs. Henderson, steps forward. I also want to apologize. During the evacuation, I lost track of Maria in the confusion. I should have done a better job of keeping my students together. We all learned something yesterday, Clint says quietly, his voice carrying across the crowd. The important thing is that we use those lessons to protect our children better. An elderly woman in the crowd speaks up. Mr. Eastwood, why did you keep looking when everyone else had given up? The question draws every eye to Clint, who remains seated on the same weathered bench where he had spoken with Rosa the day before. He takes a long moment to consider his response. aware that his words will likely be quoted and remembered. Because giving up is easy, walking away is easy, accepting good enough is easy. But our children deserve better than easy. They deserve adults who will fight for them, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when everyone else thinks the job is done. His words resonate through the crowd, creating a moment of reflection that transforms the gathering from a meeting into something approaching a community commitment. The lasting impact. 3 weeks later, Clint drives past Roosevelt Elementary during dismissal time. The new safety protocols are visible everywhere. Additional exit signs with LED lighting, improved communication systems mounted on every wall, and fire department personnel stationed at key locations throughout the building. But more importantly, he can see the cultural changes that have taken root. Teachers now carry laminated cards with photos and names of every child in their class, along with notes about medical conditions and special needs. Fire department personnel know not just the building layout, but the specific challenges faced by individual students. The evacuation procedure has been redesigned to account for children who might need extra time or assistance. Maria waves from the schoolyard, her inhaler visible in her backpack, but her smile bright and confident. She's surrounded by friends, no longer the forgotten child hiding under a desk. Her teacher, Mrs. Henderson, stays close by, but not in a way that makes Maria feel different or singled out. Clint doesn't stop. He doesn't need the recognition or the thanks. He simply continues driving, knowing that his confrontation with Chief Davidson that day had changed more than just fire safety protocols. It had reminded everyone involved that behind every rule, every procedure, and every system, there are real people with real needs. The radio plays softly in his truck as he drives toward home. A news report mentions the new child safety initiatives being implemented across the county, inspired by an incident at Roosevelt Elementary. The reporter notes that the new protocols have already been adopted by 12 other school districts and are being considered for statewide implementation. Clint turns off the radio. He doesn't need to hear about his impact on the community. He can see it in Maria's confident smile, in Chief Davidson's renewed dedication to his job, in the way parents now feel secure dropping their children off at school, and in the peace that finally settles in his own heart. As he pulls into his driveway, Clint notices a letter in his mailbox addressed in a child's careful handwriting. Inside, Maria has drawn a picture of him holding her hand with a simple message. "Thank you for not forgetting me." He folds the letter carefully and places it in his wallet next to a faded photograph of Sarah. Some burdens never fully disappear, but they can be transformed into purpose. Some losses can never be recovered, but they can prevent other losses. Sometimes the right thing isn't the easy thing, but it lasts. The epilogue. 6 months later, Roosevelt Elementary hosts its annual safety drill on a crisp October morning. The autumn sun filters through the golden leaves of the oak trees that line the school's perimeter, casting dancing shadows across the playground, where children once played without a care in the world. Unlike previous drills, this one is conducted with the precision and care of a military operation, each detail planned and executed with the kind of attention that comes from hard-learned lessons. Every child wears a bright yellow vest with their name and photo laminated in clear protective plastic. The vests are designed with reflective strips that catch the light, making each student visible from a distance even in smoky conditions. Every teacher carries a digital tablet tracking their students' location in real time, the screens showing green dots for each child as they move through the evacuation routes that have been carefully mapped and tested. Fire department personnel use thermal imaging cameras to verify that every room is truly empty, sweeping each corridor with the methodical thoroughness that Chief Davidson has now made standard procedure. The handheld devices display heat signatures in vivid colors, ensuring that no corner goes unchecked, no hiding place remains unexplored. Maria participates confidently, her inhaler secured in a special pocket designed for emergency access. The pocket, sewn into her yellow vest by her mother Rosa, bears a red medical cross symbol that alerts all emergency personnel to her condition. When the drill is complete, she doesn't hide or panic. Instead, she joins her classmates in the designated meeting area a clearly marked section of the playground where portable shade structures have been erected to protect children from the elements during extended evacuations. Mrs. Henderson, Maria's teacher, moves through her group of students with practiced efficiency, checking each name off a digital list that automatically updates the central command system. When she reaches Maria, she gives her a reassuring smile and a gentle pat on the shoulder, the kind of personal attention that has become the hallmark of the new approach to emergency management. "How are you feeling, Maria? Any breathing problems?" "I'm good, Mrs. Henderson. My inhaler is right here if I need it." Maria pats the special pocket on her vest, her confidence evident in her posture and voice. "That's my brave girl. Remember, if you ever feel scared or need help, you just raise your hand, and I'll be right there." Chief Davidson observes the drill from his position near the command center, a mobile unit that coordinates all emergency response activities. The command center, housed in a specially equipped trailer, represents a significant investment in emergency preparedness. Inside, multiple screens display real-time data from throughout the school, location tracking for every student and staff member, thermal imaging feeds from the handheld units, communication logs between all emergency personnel, and even weather data that could affect evacuation procedures. The evolution of his department's capabilities is remarkable. What once relied on visual sweeps and basic radio communication now incorporates advanced technology and individualized care. The change represents more than just new equipment. It reflects a fundamental shift in philosophy from treating emergencies as one-size-fits-all situations to recognizing that every person has unique needs and circumstances. "How'd we do, Chief?" asks Lieutenant Rodriguez, one of Davidson's most trusted firefighters, as the drill concludes. Rodriguez has been with the department for 8 years and has witnessed the transformation firsthand. "We did our job," Davidson replies, watching as Maria reunites with her mother at the pickup area. The pickup process itself has been revolutionized, with dedicated lanes for children with special needs and staff members assigned specifically to ensure smooth transitions between school and family care. Every child accounted for, every parent reassured, every teacher confident in the process. "Think we'll ever have another incident like the one with Mr. Eastwood?" Davidson considers the question seriously, his eyes scanning the orderly evacuation scene before him. The memory of that confrontation 6 months ago remains vivid, not as a source of shame, but as a reminder of how much can change when people are willing to admit their mistakes and work toward improvement. I hope not. But if we do, I hope we handle it better than we did the first time. The goal isn't to avoid criticism. It's to avoid the situations that make criticism necessary. Rodriguez nods, understanding the deeper implication. The training really has made a difference. Everyone knows what to look for now, who needs extra attention, what signs to watch for. It's not just about training, though. It's about caring. You can teach procedures, but you can't teach someone to care about the people they're trying to protect. That has to come from within. As the school day ends and families head home, the improvements implemented after that confrontation in the parking lot continue to function seamlessly. The new protocols have become routine, woven into the fabric of daily school life so thoroughly that they feel natural rather than imposed. The enhanced training has become standard, with regular refresher courses and scenario-based exercises that keep emergency skills sharp. Most importantly, the cultural shift toward individual care has become permanent. Teachers no longer see emergency procedures as interruptions to their day, but as integral parts of their responsibility to protect and nurture their students. Parents feel genuinely confident in the school's ability to keep their children safe, not because they've been told to trust, but because they've seen evidence of that commitment in action. The continuing impact. The changes at Roosevelt Elementary have rippled outward like waves in a pond, affecting not just the immediate school community but the entire district and beyond. Superintendent Williams has mandated that all schools adopt similar protocols, and the success of the Roosevelt model has attracted attention from education officials across the state. At Central Middle School, where many of Roosevelt's former students now attend, similar safety measures have been implemented with age-appropriate modifications. high school students receive training in emergency response procedures, learning not just how to evacuate, but how to assist younger children and adults who might need help. The fire department's transformation has been equally comprehensive. Chief Davidson has established partnerships with local medical professionals to better understand conditions like asthma, autism, and mobility impairments that affect how children respond to emergencies. Regular workshops bring together firefighters, teachers, parents, and medical experts to share knowledge and refine procedures. We learned that being a first responder means more than just responding first, Davidson explains to a group of visiting fire chiefs from neighboring communities.
It means understanding the people we're trying to help, knowing their individual needs, and adapting our approach accordingly. The visiting chiefs have come to learn about Roosevelt's success story, hoping to implement similar programs in their own communities. The meeting takes place in the school's cafeteria, where Maria and her classmates are finishing their lunch just one table over, a living reminder of why this work matters. Dr.
Sarah Mitchell, a pediatric pulmonologist who has become an advisor to the school district, addresses the group. Children with medical conditions often feel different, isolated, sometimes even ashamed of their limitations. What Roosevelt has done is create an environment where those differences are acknowledged and accommodated without stigma. She gestures toward Maria, who is laughing with her friends, her inhaler visible but unremarkable among the other items on the lunch table. 6 months ago, that little girl was traumatized by an emergency situation that highlighted her vulnerability. Today, she's confident and secure because the adults around her have taken responsibility for understanding and protecting her. Clint's quiet observation. Clint drives past the school one final time on this particular afternoon, his route taking him along Maple Street, just as the final buses are loading students for the ride home. He notes with satisfaction that the pickup process now includes specific accommodations for children with special needs, dedicated staff members who know every child's name and circumstances, and a system that prioritizes safety over speed. At the bus loading area, he observes Mrs. Henderson personally ensuring that Maria boards the correct bus, checking that her inhaler is secure, and reminding the bus driver about the child's medical needs. The driver, Mr. Peterson, has received special training in recognizing and responding to asthma attacks, part of the comprehensive approach that now extends beyond the school building itself. Have a good afternoon, Maria. Remember what we practiced about using your inhaler if you need it on the bus. I remember, Mrs. Henderson, and I have your phone number if I need to call. That's right. You're never alone, sweetheart. Clint doesn't stop to take credit or to check on Maria directly. He doesn't need to insert himself into the scene or claim ownership of the changes he helped inspire. He simply continues driving, secure in the knowledge that his refusal to walk away that day has created lasting change that extends far beyond his presence or involvement. The confrontation with Chief Davidson had been necessary, but it was never about victory or vindication. It was about ensuring that no child would ever again spend 3 hours wondering if the world had forgotten them. The success of that goal is evident not in thanks or recognition, but in the quiet confidence with which Maria now navigates her daily routine. The broader message. As Clint reaches the end of Maple Street and turns toward home, he reflects on the nature of change and responsibility. The incident at Roosevelt Elementary had begun with a single moment of fear, a little girl trapped and forgotten, but it had grown into something much larger, a fundamental re-examination of how communities protect their most vulnerable members. The transformation hadn't been easy. It had required admitting failures, investing in new equipment and training, and changing deeply ingrained habits and assumptions. Chief Davidson had faced criticism from some who viewed the new procedures as excessive or expensive. Teachers had needed to learn new technologies and approaches. Parents had been asked to trust in changes they couldn't fully understand. But the effort had been worth it, not just for Maria, but for every child who would benefit from the improved safety measures. The thermal imaging cameras had already detected 2 students hiding in bathroom stalls during subsequent drills. The individualized medical alerts had helped staff respond appropriately to a diabetic emergency and a severe allergic reaction. The enhanced communication systems had streamlined responses to 3 separate incidents that could have become tragedies under the old procedures. Sometimes the most important battles are fought not with weapons, but with the simple refusal to walk away when someone needs help. The principle extends beyond emergency response to every aspect of community life. When someone falls through the cracks of bureaucracy, when a person's individual needs don't fit standard procedures, when the most vulnerable members of society risk being overlooked, these are the moments that test a community's character. The children's perspective. Back at Roosevelt Elementary, Maria and her classmates have adapted to the new safety procedures with the remarkable resilience that children display when adults provide consistent, caring guidance. For them, the yellow vests and digital tablets are simply part of school life, no more unusual than backpacks or pencil boxes. During a recent class discussion about community helpers, Maria raised her hand to share her thoughts about firefighters. They're really brave and they work hard to keep everyone safe. Sometimes they make mistakes, but when they do, they try to fix them and do better next time. Her comment prompted a broader conversation about growth, responsibility, and the importance of learning from errors. Mrs. Henderson used the moment to reinforce lessons about empathy, understanding, and the value of speaking up when something seems wrong. Maria, what would you tell a firefighter who is worried about making a mistake? I would tell them that everyone makes mistakes sometimes, but what matters is that they care about helping people, and they keep trying to do better. The wisdom in her response reflects not just her personal experience, but the way the entire school community has processed and learned from the events of 6 months ago. Rather than viewing the incident as a failure to be hidden or forgotten, it has been integrated into the ongoing education about safety, responsibility, and community care. The professional evolution Chief Davidson's career has taken on new dimensions since that confrontational day in the school parking lot. He now travels regularly to speak at conferences about emergency response innovation and community engagement. His presentations focus not on the technical aspects of thermal imaging or communication systems, but on the human elements that make those technologies effective. We can have the most advanced equipment in the world, he tells audiences of fellow emergency responders, but if we don't understand the people we're trying to protect, if we don't take the time to learn about their individual needs and circumstances, then we're just playing with expensive toys. His department has become a model for others, receiving visits from fire chiefs, emergency management officials, and school administrators from across the country. The transformation has brought recognition and funding opportunities, but Davidson remains focused on the core mission that was clarified for him during his confrontation with Clint Eastwood. Recognition is nice, but it's not why we do this work. We do it because every person in our community deserves to know that someone is watching out for them, especially when they're too scared or too vulnerable to watch out for themselves. The enduring legacy. This story reminds us that true heroism isn't about grand gestures or public recognition. It's about standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves, especially when everyone else has stopped looking. Sometimes the most important battles are fought not with weapons, but with the simple refusal to walk away when someone needs help. In a world that often moves too fast to notice the forgotten ones, Clint Eastwood's confrontation with the fire chief serves as a powerful reminder that every life matters, especially the quiet ones who wait in the shadows, hoping someone will remember they exist. The measure of a community isn't found in its procedures or protocols, but in its willingness to fight for every member, especially the most vulnerable. When we prioritize systems over people, we risk losing the very humanity those systems are meant to protect. Maria Santos went home safe that day, not because of perfect procedures, but because one man refused to accept that good enough was good enough. In the end, that's what courage looks like. Not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear prevent us from doing what's right. The legacy of that October afternoon continues to unfold in ways both visible and hidden. It lives in the confidence with which Maria approaches each new day, in the thoroughness with which Chief Davidson's team conducts their duties, in the security that parents feel when dropping their children off at school, and in the knowledge that sometimes, when one person refuses to walk away, the entire world can change for the better. In years to come, as Maria grows up and faces new challenges, she will carry with her the memory of being found when she thought she was forgotten. She will understand, in ways that only experience can teach, that there are adults who will fight for children, systems that can be improved when they fail, and communities that grow stronger when they acknowledge their mistakes and work to fix them. And perhaps someday, when she encounters someone who has been overlooked or forgotten, she will remember the lesson learned in Classroom 3B, that the most important thing any of us can do is refuse to walk away when someone needs help. Sometimes the most important battles are fought not with weapons, but with the simple refusal to walk away when someone needs help.